Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of his ship, looking at the massive alien space station floating in front of them. The Terra Nova had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. Now they were finally here, ready to meet other intelligent life forms for the first time in human history. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Strange lights moved across its surface in patterns Jake had never seen before. Ships of different shapes and sizes docked at various ports. Some looked like crystals, others like flowing water frozen in metal form. "Captain, we're getting the docking signal," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Ben Clark. "They're directing us to Bay 7. Jake nodded. "Take us in slowly. Remember, this is history in the making." Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's chief medical officer, joined Jake at the window. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "A little," Jake admitted. 3 months of talking through radio signals is one thing. Meeting face-to-face is something else entirely. The Terra Nova moved carefully toward the docking bay. Jake could see alien workers directing them in. They looked like walking trees made of metal and light. As the ship connected to the station, Jake felt a small vibration through the floor. "Docking complete," announced the pilot. "All systems show green." Jake straightened his uniform. "Dr. Park, you're with me. Everyone else, stay on the ship until we know more." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Jake and Lisa stepped into a corridor that seemed to shift colors as they walked. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with electricity. Their footsteps echoed differently here, as if the walls absorbed some sounds and reflected others. A figure approached them. It looked like a person made of blue crystal, about 7 feet tall. Light moved through its body in slow waves. When it spoke, the words came from a device hanging around what might have been its neck. "Welcome, humans. I am Zephyr 9, medical coordinator of Nexus Prime. You must undergo standard health screening before entering council space." Jake had practiced this moment many times. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Park, our medical officer. We're ready for your procedures." Zephyr 9's crystal body brightened slightly. "Follow me to the medical bay. The process is simple and fast. Our scanners can analyze any known life form in seconds." They walked through corridors filled with beings Jake had only imagined. Creatures that looked like floating gas clouds drifted past. Insect-like beings with multiple arms worked at control panels. Plant creatures with bark-like skin stood in groups, their leaves rustling as they communicated. "So many different species," Lisa whispered. 12 member races in the Galactic Council, Zephyr 9 explained. Each evolved on different worlds under different conditions. Yet we all found peace and cooperation. The medical bay was a large room filled with equipment Jake couldn't begin to understand. In the center stood a platform surrounded by curved metal arms covered in sensors and lights. "Captain Morrison, please step onto the platform," Zephyr 9 instructed. "The scanner will examine your biology, medical history, and genetic structure. This helps us understand how to interact safely with your species." Jake stepped onto the platform. The sensors began to move around him, casting different colored lights across his body. At first, everything seemed normal. The lights moved in smooth patterns and soft humming sounds filled the air. Then something changed. The humming became higher and more urgent. Red lights began flashing. The sensors moved faster, focusing on specific parts of Jake's body. Other alien beings in the medical bay stopped their work and turned to look. Zephyr 9's crystal form dimmed. "This is unusual. The scanner is detecting extensive tissue damage and scarring across your body." Jake looked down at himself. He hadn't thought about his old injuries in years. The bullet wound from Afghanistan, the knife cut from a bar fight in his 20s, burns from a house fire when he was a teenager, countless small scars from childhood accidents and adult mishaps. The scanner's main display showed a 3-dimensional image of Jake's body. Dozens of red marks highlighted places where he had been injured and healed. More alien beings gathered around, their various forms of communication creating a chorus of sounds, lights, and movements. "The scanner is attempting to classify the source of these injuries," Zephyr 9 said, its voice carrying confusion. "It has never encountered a life form with this level of damage that remained functional." Dr. Park stepped forward. "Captain Morrison has lived a full life. Humans accumulate injuries over time. It's normal for our species." But Zephyr 9 was looking at readouts that made no sense. The pattern suggests combat with multiple different predators. Some wounds show precision that indicates intelligence. Others show raw power that suggests massive size and strength. More alarms began sounding. The scanner's analysis grew more frantic. Jake could see alien technicians working at control panels, trying to understand what they were seeing. The artificial intelligence is running combat scenarios, Zephyr 9 explained. It's trying to determine what kind of creature could inflict such diverse damage patterns on a being that continued to survive and fight. Jake realized the problem. To these aliens, his scars told a story of battles with impossibly dangerous enemies. They couldn't understand that humans got hurt doing ordinary things and kept going. The scanner's voice spoke for the first time, its words translated into English by the station's systems. The voice was mechanical but carried a tone of bewilderment. Analysis incomplete. Subject shows damage consistent with combat against multiple apex predators, energy weapons, chemical burns, and precise cutting implements. Survival rate for such encounters should be 0. The gathered aliens moved back slightly. Jake could sense their growing alarm even though he couldn't read their alien expressions. The scanner continued its analysis, running through databases of known dangerous creatures and weapons. Each comparison made the situation seem more impossible. Finally, the scanner's voice spoke again, slower this time, as if the artificial intelligence was struggling with its conclusion. Query for Subject Morrison, designation human. The damage patterns on your body suggest encounters with beings of immense power and capability. Please confirm, have you faced a god in combat and survived? The medical bay fell silent. Every alien present turned to look at Jake, waiting for his answer. Dr. Park's eyes widened as she realized how their peaceful first contact had suddenly become something much more complicated. Jake stood on the platform, surrounded by concerned aliens, facing a question he had never expected. The scanner waited for his response, its sensors still focused on the scars that told the story of a human life. Jake looked around the medical bay at the worried alien faces staring at him. The scanner's question hung in the air like a challenge. Dr. Lisa Park moved closer to the platform, her medical instincts telling her this situation was getting dangerous. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Jake said carefully. I haven't fought any gods. These scars come from normal human experiences. Zephyr 9's crystal body flickered with confusion. Normal experiences? The scanner indicates wounds from high-energy weapons, cutting tools, and massive impact trauma. What normal experiences cause such damage? More aliens had entered the medical bay. Jake could see the floating gas cloud beings he'd noticed earlier, now glowing with agitated colors. The insect-like creatures clicked and buzzed among themselves. Even the plant beings had moved closer, their bark-like skin creaking as they shifted. Jake decided to start simple. He pointed to a small scar on his knee. This one happened when I was 7 years old. I was riding my bicycle down a hill and crashed. The aliens exchanged what Jake assumed were confused looks. Zephyr 9 spoke into a device and Jake heard rapid translations happening in multiple alien languages. You engaged in high-speed travel as a juvenile? Asked one of the insect beings, its voice coming through a translator. For what purpose? For fun, Jake replied. Human children play and explore. Sometimes we get hurt, but that's how we learn. This answer seemed to make things worse. The gas cloud beings pulsed with brighter colors. The plant creatures rustled their leaves in what sounded like distress. Dr. Park stepped forward. Perhaps I can explain better. Humans are very active beings. We participate in activities that carry some risk because they bring us joy or help us grow stronger. Jake rolled up his shirt to show a long scar across his abdomen. This is from surgery when I was 25. My appendix stopped working properly, so doctors cut it out. The aliens recoiled visibly. Zephyr 9's crystal form dimmed so much it almost went dark. You allow your own kind to cut into your body? While you're alive? To save my life, Jake explained. Humans sometimes need to remove parts that break down. We've learned how to do this safely. One of the gas beings spoke, its words forming in a cloud of colored vapor that the translator converted to sound. This suggests your species has internal predators. Parasites that consume organs. No parasites, Lisa said, trying to help. Human bodies are complex. Sometimes parts wear out or malfunction. Surgery helps us live longer, healthier lives. Jake showed them another scar on his shoulder. This one is from playing football in college. Another player tackled me too hard and dislocated my shoulder. Football? Zephyr 9 asked. a game where two teams try to move a ball to opposite ends of a field. There's a lot of physical contact. The translator devices around the room worked overtime as aliens tried to understand the concept of competitive physical sports. The insect beings clicked rapidly among themselves. The plant creatures swayed as if blown by wind, though the air in the medical bay was still. "You intentionally engage in combat with your own species for entertainment?" asked a new voice. Jake turned to see another alien approaching. This one looked like a collection of floating geometric shapes that constantly shifted position. "It's not combat exactly," Jake said. "It's competition. We play games to test our skills and strength against each other. Usually nobody gets seriously hurt." "Usually?" Zephyr 9 repeated. Jake realized he was making things worse again. He tried a different approach. "Look, humans are tough. We heal from injuries and keep going. These scars show that I've lived an active life, not that I've fought monsters." Dr. Park moved to stand beside the scanner platform. "Captain, maybe you should tell them about your military service." Jake hesitated. If civilian injuries confused these aliens, military wounds might terrify them. But the scanner had already detected everything, so hiding it was pointless. He rolled up his sleeve to show shrapnel scars on his forearm. "These are from my time as a soldier. An explosive device went off near me in Afghanistan." The medical bay went completely silent. Even the quiet humming of machinery seemed to stop. Jake watched as the alien beings processed this information. "You fight wars with your own species?" The question came from several aliens at once, their translator devices overlapping. "Sometimes," Jake admitted. "Humans don't always agree with each other. Sometimes disagreements turn into conflicts." Zephyr 9 approached the platform, its crystal body now barely glowing. "You survived combat with other humans who possessed explosive weapons?" "Many humans have," Jake said. "War is terrible, but humans are survivors. We adapt, we heal, and we keep going." The scanner suddenly activated again, running new analysis programs. The red warning lights returned as it processed this new information about human conflicts. "Alert," the scanner announced. "Species classification requires revision. Humans engage in intraspecies warfare while maintaining space travel capability. This combination has no precedent in galactic records." Jake could see panic spreading among the aliens. They had expected to meet a peaceful species ready to join their galactic community. Instead, they had discovered creatures who fought each other and survived injuries that would kill most known life forms. The insect beings began making rapid clicking sounds. The gas clouds pulsed with alarming colors. The plant creatures' leaves rustled like a forest in a storm. Zephyr 9 turned to address the room. "Emergency council session required. All department heads report to briefing chamber 7 immediately." As aliens began filing out of the medical bay, Jake remained on the scanner platform, unsure if he should move. Dr. Park looked worried. "Captain," she said quietly, "I think we may have just scared the most peaceful civilization in the galaxy." Jake looked at his scars with new understanding. To him, they were just reminders of a life fully lived. To these aliens, they were evidence of a species so violent and hardy that they survived things no civilized being should ever face. The scanner spoke once more before shutting down. Additional query. If humans regularly survive such trauma in normal activities, what level of threat would be required to actually eliminate your species? Jake had no answer for that question. He was beginning to understand that humanity's first contact with alien civilization was not going to be the peaceful, diplomatic meeting everyone had hoped for. Outside the medical bay, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The alarms echoing through Nexus Prime carried a sound Jake had never heard before. It wasn't the sharp, urgent warning of human emergency systems. This was deeper, more mournful, like the station itself was crying out in distress. Jake and Dr. Park were escorted from the medical bay by a group of alien security officers. These beings looked different from the others Jake had seen. They were taller, with metallic skin that shifted between silver and gold. Their movements were precise and coordinated, but Jake noticed they carried no weapons. "Where are they taking us?" Lisa whispered. "Probably somewhere they can decide what to do with us," Jake replied quietly. They walked through corridors filled with frantic activity. Aliens hurried past carrying data tablets and communication devices. The gas cloud beings moved faster than before, their colors shifting rapidly between what Jake was starting to recognize as emotional states. Their destination was a massive chamber at the heart of the station. The ceiling curved high overhead, covered in stars that weren't quite right. Jake realized they were looking at a real-time display of local space, showing the positions of planets, ships, and other objects in the system. 3 imposing figures waited for them at the center of the chamber. The first was a gas cloud being larger than any Jake had seen, its vapors swirling in complex patterns. Colors moved through its form like aurora on Earth. The second figure appeared to be made of living wood and leaves, but ancient beyond anything on Earth. Its bark was deep brown, scarred with age, and its branches reached toward the ceiling. When it moved, Jake heard the creaking of old trees and the whisper of wind through forests. The third being was the most unsettling. It looked like a person, but Jake could tell it was actually hundreds of smaller insect-like creatures working together. They moved in perfect synchronization, creating the illusion of a single entity. "I am harmony of spheres," the gas being said, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I speak for the ethereal collective." "Ancient root of wisdom," said the tree being, its voice deep and slow, like distant thunder. "Elder of the Verdani." "Collective voice of many," said the insect swarm, thousands of tiny voices combining into one. "Representative of the unified minds," Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Park. We came here hoping to establish peaceful relations between humanity and the Galactic Council." Harmony of spheres pulsed with colors Jake was learning to associate with confusion and concern. "Captain Morrison, the medical scans of your species have created great alarm among our people. We must understand what manner of beings you are." "We're explorers," Jake said. "Scientists and diplomats seeking friendship with other intelligent life. Yet you bear the marks of constant warfare," Ancient Root of Wisdom rumbled. "Your body tells stories of violence that our species abandoned long ago." Commander Alex Chen and Dr. Rebecca Stone arrived under guard. Alex was Jake's second in command, a calm man who rarely showed emotion. Rebecca was their cultural specialist, trained to help navigate first contact situations. "Captain," Alex said as he joined them, "the entire station is in emergency mode. They've isolated our ship and cut off communications." Rebecca looked around the chamber with professional interest. "This appears to be a tribunal setting. They're deciding whether we're a threat." Collective voice of many moved closer, its form rippling as thousands of tiny beings adjusted their positions. "Dr. Stone, your species claims to seek peace, yet Captain Morrison's scars suggest a life of constant battle. How do you explain this contradiction?" Rebecca took a deep breath. "Honored representatives, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature. We need to share some history with you." She activated a small device that projected a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, showing cities, forests, oceans, and millions of humans going about their daily lives. "Humans evolved on a dangerous world," Rebecca began. "We faced predators, natural disasters, disease, and scarcity. These challenges made us tough and resourceful, but they also taught us to work together." The display showed human achievements, buildings, art, music, and scientific discoveries. "Yes, humans sometimes fight each other," Rebecca continued, "but we also cooperate on massive scales. We've ended diseases, explored our solar system, and created works of beauty that inspire our souls." Harmony of spheres swirled thoughtfully. "Yet the medical scans suggest Captain Morrison has survived encounters with weapons designed to kill." "Because humans are hard to kill," Jake said simply. "We're built to survive, but that doesn't make us monsters." Ancient Root of Wisdom's branches creaked as it shifted position. "The Verdani grew slowly on a world of plenty. We learned patience because we had no predators and abundant resources. Conflict became unnecessary as we evolved wisdom." Collective voice of many spoke next. "The unified minds share thoughts and emotions. When all beings think as one, disagreement becomes impossible. War cannot exist when there is perfect understanding." "The ethereals transcended physical form," Harmony of Spheres added. "We became beings of pure energy, beyond the needs that drive material conflict." Rebecca nodded respectfully. "Those are beautiful evolutionary paths. But humans took a different route. We remained physical, individual, and competitive. These traits helped us survive, but they also drive us to explore, create, and protect others." "Protect others?" Ancient Root of Wisdom asked. "Humans often fight to defend those who cannot defend themselves," Jake explained. "Many of my scars come from protecting my fellow soldiers, or civilians caught in dangerous situations." The three tribunal members exchanged communications in their own methods. Harmony of spheres changed colors rapidly. Ancient root of wisdom's leaves rustled. Collective voice of many's form shifted and reformed. Finally, harmony of spheres spoke. The Galactic Council has maintained peace for over 10,000 years. In all that time, no member species has possessed both advanced technology and active military capabilities. We've forgotten how to fight, ancient root of wisdom admitted. Our worlds have no armies, no weapons, no defenses beyond communication and negotiation. And now you arrive, collective voice of many said, bearing the scars of countless battles, yet claiming to seek peace. Jake was about to respond when new alarms began sounding. These were different from before, higher and more urgent. Alien technicians rushed to control panels around the chamber. A new figure entered the chamber quickly. It was Zephyr 9, its crystal form flashing with urgent light patterns. Honored Council, Zephyr 9 announced, long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures approaching from dark space. Unknown vessels, larger than anything in our databases. The star display above their heads changed, showing red markers moving toward inhabited systems. Whatever was coming was moving fast and appeared to be heading directly for populated worlds. Harmony of spheres pulsed with colors Jake was learning meant fear. How many ships? Current count is over 30 vessels, each larger than our biggest stations. They're not responding to any communication attempts. Ancient root of wisdom's branches drooped. In 10,000 years, we have encountered no hostile species. We have no procedures for this situation. Collective voice of many's form became more agitated, its component beings moving in less coordinated patterns. Our defensive capabilities are limited to shields and emergency evacuation protocols. Jake looked at his companions, then back at the alien tribunal. You're saying the galaxy has been peaceful for 10,000 years, and now something hostile shows up the same day humans arrive? The timing is highly concerning, Harmony of Spheres admitted. Maybe, Rebecca said slowly, the universe has a sense of irony. Jake stepped forward. Honored Council, if you're facing a military threat, humans might be able to help. We understand conflict in ways your species have forgotten. The three beings looked at each other with whatever served as expressions for their kinds. You would fight for strangers? Ancient root of wisdom asked. We would fight for innocence, Jake replied. It's what humans do. Above them, the unknown ships continued their approach toward helpless worlds. The first attack came 18 hours later. Jake watched from Nexus Prime's command center as the outer colony of New Garden simply disappeared from the sensor displays. One moment it was there, home to 3 million plant-like Verdani. The next moment, nothing but empty space and debris. The unknown ships had not bothered with warnings or negotiations. They had simply arrived and opened fire with weapons that turned an entire world into cosmic dust. The evacuation ships never made it out, reported an ethereal technician, its gaseous form dim with grief. Complete destruction in under 4 minutes. Harmony of spheres floated near the main display, colors shifting rapidly through what Jake was learning meant panic and despair. Send diplomatic signals on all frequencies. Offer to negotiate terms of surrender. Jake stood near the back of the command center with his crew. Commander Chen monitored communications while Dr. Stone tried to understand the alien response. Protocols. Dr. Park was helping treat alien beings who had collapsed from shock at witnessing the first act of warfare they had seen in 10,000 years, Captain, Chen said quietly. I've been listening to their diplomatic channels. They're offering to give these attackers anything they want if they'll just stop killing people. The main display showed the unknown fleet continuing its advance. The ships were massive dark metal constructs that looked like they had been built for intimidation as much as destruction. They moved in perfect formation, ignoring all communication attempts. Zephyr 9 approached Jake, its crystal form flickering with urgent patterns. Captain Morrison, the Council has voted. They formally request assistance from your species. In exchange, they offer full membership in the Galactic Council and access to all our technology and trade networks. Jake looked at the display showing 30 massive warships heading toward defenseless worlds. What exactly are you asking us to do? Stop them, Harmony of Spheres said simply. Our people are dying, and we have no means to defend ourselves. Your species understands warfare. Please help us. I need to contact my ship, Jake said. And we'll need more than just the Terra Nova for this. Ancient Root of Wisdom's branches creaked as it moved closer. How many of your vessels would be required to face such a fleet? Jake studied the display showing the enemy ships. They were big, heavily armored, and clearly built for overwhelming firepower rather than speed or maneuverability. Against 30 ships that size? We'd need everything we can get. Chen was already working at a communication station. Captain, I'm detecting human ship signatures at the edge of the system. Looks like the Terra Nova sent out a distress call before. Communications were cut. The display updated to show 4 human ships approaching Nexus Prime. Jake recognized the configurations: 3 destroyers and a heavy cruiser. Not much against a fleet of 30, but it was a start. Captain Sarah Phillips of the UES Defiant requesting permission to dock. Came a familiar voice over the communications channel. We received Terra Nova's emergency signal and came as fast as we could. Jake smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Sarah Phillips was one of the finest military commanders in the human fleet. If anyone could figure out how to fight these unknown ships, it would be her. 2 hours later, Jake stood in Nexus Prime's main docking bay as human military personnel streamed off the newly arrived ships. Marines in full combat gear, weapons specialists carrying equipment the aliens had never seen, and tactical officers who moved with the confidence of people who understood war. Captain Phillips was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She surveyed the docking bay filled with worried aliens before turning to Jake. "Brief me," she said simply. Jake explained the situation while they walked toward the command center. Phillips listened without interruption, occasionally asking technical questions about alien defensive capabilities and fleet positions. "So they've been peaceful for 10,000 years, Phillips summarized. No military, no weapons, no concept of strategic defense. And now something shows up that wants to destroy everything." "That's about the size of it," Jake confirmed. They entered the command center, where Phillips immediately began studying the tactical displays. Sergeant Rico Martinez, her Marine commander, stood nearby with Lieutenant Danny Cooper, her weapons specialist, and Commander Helen Garcia, her tactical officer. "Analysis," Phillips said to her team. Martinez pointed at the enemy formation. "Slow-moving heavy hitters, built for intimidation and overwhelming firepower, probably expecting to face defenseless targets." Cooper studied the weapon signatures. Energy-based primary weapons, massive yield. But the firing rate is slow and they don't seem designed for fighting other warships. Garcia nodded. "Classic siege formation. They're built to destroy planets and stations, not fight mobile fleets." Phillips turned to Harmony of Spheres. "How many civilian ships are in the evacuation zones?" "Over 2 million vessels," the ethereal replied. "Our entire outer rim is fleeing toward the core systems." "They can't all make it," Phillips said bluntly. "These attackers are moving too fast. We need to slow them down." Ancient Root of Wisdom approached with slow, deliberate movements. "Captain Phillips, what would you require to face such a force?" Phillips looked at the display again. "Honestly, a miracle. 4 ships against 30 isn't good odds, but those are big, slow targets. If we can get them to fight us instead of chasing civilians, we might buy time for evacuations." Collective voice of Menius form shifted nervously. "You would sacrifice your ships to save strangers?" "We would try to save everyone," Phillips replied. "That's what humans do." Dr. Stone stepped forward. "Captain, I've been studying the alien databases. These attackers aren't in any of their records. They're something new, or something very old that everyone forgot about." Zephyr 9's crystal form brightened with a sudden realization. "The archives. There are sealed records from before the Great Peace. Documents from the age of conflicts before the Council was formed." "Can you access them?" Jake asked. "The Council would need to vote to unseal historical records. It could take days." Phillips shook her head. "We don't have days. The next colony in their path will be hit in 6 hours." Jake made a decision. "Captain Phillips, take command of this operation. Do whatever you need to do to protect these people." Phillips nodded and turned to address the assembled aliens. "I need complete access to your sensor networks, communication systems, and any technical data you have on faster-than-light travel. My people will need to move freely throughout this station." Harmony of Spheres pulsed with urgent colors. "You have whatever you require." As human military personnel spread throughout the command center, Jake noticed something interesting. The aliens were watching them with a mixture of fear and fascination. These peaceful beings had never seen professional soldiers at work. Martinez was organizing defensive positions with the efficiency of someone who had done it 1,000 times. Cooper was studying alien technology to see what could be adapted for military use. Garcia was mapping escape routes and calculating travel times for civilian evacuations. Captain Morrison, Zephyr 9 said quietly, I am beginning to understand what the medical scanner detected in your scars. What do you mean? Your species has faced impossible odds before and survived. The scanner thought you had fought gods because to us that is what you do. You face the impossible and refuse to surrender. Jake looked around the command center at humans and aliens working together to prepare for a battle that should have been hopeless. Maybe, he said, that's exactly what we're about to do again. On the main display, the enemy fleet continued its advance toward 2 billion helpless civilians, unaware that they were about to encounter the one species in the galaxy that still remembered how to fight. The battle for the Altair system began at 800 station time. Captain Sarah Phillips stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as her small fleet moved to intercept 30 massive enemy vessels bearing down on the largest refugee convoy in galactic history. 2 billion alien, civilians from a dozen different species fled in every ship they could find. Ancient cargo haulers carried Verdani families. Ethereal beings compressed themselves into emergency pods. The insectoid unified minds had abandoned their hives for the first time in centuries. Enemy fleet entering weapons range, reported Lieutenant Cooper from the weapons station. They're maintaining formation and ignoring our presence. Phillips studied the tactical display. The enemy ships were even larger up close, each one the size of a small city. Their dark hulls showed no markings or identification, and they had not responded to any communication attempts. They're heading straight for the refugee ships, Commander Garcia observed. Either they don't consider us a threat or they don't care. Let's change their minds, Phillips said. All ships attack pattern Delta. Target the lead vessel's weapon arrays. The 4 human ships split into 2 pairs using their superior speed to approach the enemy fleet from different angles. The Terra Nova and the destroyer Courage went low, while the Defiant and Valor went high. Jake Morrison watched from the Terra Nova's bridge as they opened fire. Human weapons lit up the darkness of space with precise strikes against the lead enemy ship. Energy beams and kinetic projectiles hammered against the massive vessel's hull. The alien ship shuddered under the impact, but continued forward without changing course. Its hull showed scorch marks and small breaches, but no significant damage. Their armor is thicker than we estimated, reported the Terra Nova's weapons officer. We're not penetrating deep enough to hit critical systems. Then the enemy fleet responded. The lead ship turned its massive weapons toward the human vessels and fired. The energy beam that lanced out was wider than the Terra Nova's entire hull. Captain Morrison ordered evasive maneuvers, and the ship rolled desperately aside as the beam passed close enough to overload their shields. That was a warning shot, Jake realized. They could have hit us if they wanted to. Phillips's voice came over the communication channel. All ships, they're trying to swat us away so they can continue to the refugees. We need to make ourselves impossible to ignore. The Defiant dove toward the enemy formation, its weapons targeting the connection points between hull sections. The ship's Marines had identified potential weak spots in the alien design, places where different parts of the massive vessels joined together. Boarding teams prepare for launch, Phillips announced. If we can't destroy them from outside, we'll take them apart from within. Jake felt his stomach clench. Boarding actions were among the most dangerous operations in space combat. Marines would launch in small pods, try to breach the enemy hull and fight their way inside to plant explosives or capture critical systems. Sergeant Martinez led the first boarding team from the Defiant. His Marines launched in assault pods that looked tiny against the massive enemy vessel. The pods used magnetic clamps and cutting tools to breach the hull, creating entry points for the Marines to pour through. Boarding successful, Martinez reported. We're inside. The atmosphere is toxic to humans, but our suits are handling it. This ship is weird, Captain. The corridors are too big and everything looks automated. Dr. Park, monitoring from the Terra Nova's medical bay, spoke into her communicator. Sergeant, be careful. Unknown atmosphere could contain biological hazards. Martinez's team moved through the alien vessel's corridors, encountering no resistance. The ship seemed to be run entirely by machines, with no crew quarters or life support systems for biological beings. Captain Phillips, Martinez reported, I think these aren't crewed ships. They're giant robots. Everything in here is mechanical, like someone built automated warships and sent them out to destroy things. On Nexus Prime, Zephyr 9 monitored the battle alongside the Galactic Council leaders. The crystal being's form flickered with realization as it processed this information. Automated vessels, it said to Harmony of Spheres. That would explain their behavior. They're following programmed instructions to destroy all life in this region. Ancient Root of Wisdom's branches creaked with distress. Who would create such things? The answer came from an unexpected source. Deep in the alien archives, automated systems had been triggered by the current crisis. Sealed records from before the Great Peace began transmitting their contents to the main displays. The records showed images of a war fought long before any current galactic species had achieved space travel. An ancient civilization had created these automated warships as weapons against their enemies. When that civilization destroyed itself in the final stages of their war, the robot ships had continued operating, following their last orders to eliminate all life that might threaten their creators. They've been dormant in dark space for millennia, Harmony of Spheres realized. Our expansion into new systems must have triggered their activation. Back in the battle, Martinez's team had reached the enemy ship's central control center. The room was filled with ancient computers and control systems that hummed with malevolent purpose. I found their brain, Martinez reported. It's some kind of central command matrix. If we can destroy this, the ship should shut down. Do it, Phillips ordered. Martinez placed explosive charges around the control matrix while his team held the corridor against automated defense systems that had finally awakened to their presence. Robot defenders rolled down the hallways firing energy weapons at the Marines. Charges set, Martinez announced. All teams evacuate to minimum safe distance. The explosion tore through the heart of the massive ship. Lights went out along its hull, and the vessel began to drift as its engines shut down. But the victory was short-lived. The other 29 enemy ships continued their advance, and the disabled vessel began to self-destruct. All ships get clear, Phillips shouted as the dead enemy vessel erupted in a fireball that lit up half the system. Jake watched from the Terra Nova's bridge as debris from the destroyed ship scattered across space. One enemy vessel down, but 29 still advancing on the refugee fleet. Captain, reported Commander Garcia, we've bought the refugees about 2 hours, but we can't board and destroy 29 more ships with the Marines we have left. Phillips studied the tactical situation. The human fleet was fast but lightly armed compared to their enemies. They had proven they could destroy the robot ships, but it required boarding actions that cost time and lives they couldn't spare. That's when Jake had an idea. Captain Phillips, he called over the communication channel. What if we don't try to destroy all of them? What if we just need to confuse them? Phillips looked puzzled. Explain. These are automated ships following ancient programming. They're not intelligent, just following orders. What if we could make them think their mission was complete? Dr. Stone, listening from Nexus Prime, understood immediately. Captain Morrison, you're thinking of spoofing their sensors. Make them believe they've already destroyed their targets. Jake nodded. The aliens have advanced technology. Could they create false sensor readings that would fool ancient computers? Zephyr 9's crystal form brightened with excitement. The refugee ships all carry emergency transponders. If we could modify their signals to broadcast destruction confirmations, the automated vessels might accept mission completion and withdraw. It was a desperate plan, but it was their only chance. While the human ships continued hit-and-run attacks to slow the enemy advance, alien technicians worked frantically to modify refugee ship transponders. The plan worked better than anyone had hoped. As modified signals reached the automated fleet, the robot ships began to slow and change course. Their ancient programming accepted the false reports of successful target destruction and triggered withdrawal protocols. One by one, the massive vessels turned away from the refugee convoy and began moving back toward dark space. The threat was over, at least for now. Hours later, Jake stood in Nexus Prime's medical bay as Dr. Park treated his latest injuries. During the final boarding action, an explosion had thrown him against a bulkhead, leaving him with new cuts and bruises to add to his collection. The medical scanner activated as before, running its analysis of Jake's condition. But this time when it finished, the AI's question was different. Captain Morrison, the scanner's voice said, analysis shows fresh injuries consistent with recent combat operations. Query, how many lives did you save today? Jake looked at his reflection in the scanner's display. His uniform was torn and dirty. New bandages covered fresh wounds. But beyond him, he could see the medical bay filled with aliens from a dozen species. Refugees who were alive because humans had been willing to fight for strangers. About 2 billion, Jake said quietly. The scanner processed this information. Clarification. Previous assessment of God-level combat capabilities confirmed. Captain Morrison, you and your species do not fight gods. You have become gods of war yourselves, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Zephyr 9 approached the scanner platform, its crystal form glowing with understanding. Captain, I finally comprehend what your scars represent.